Somewhere in Florida, you can still get a waterfront home for under $250,000, or live in a town that literally bans chain restaurants. Sounds fake? It's not. These are 15 hidden Florida retirement havens you've probably never heard of. Number 15. Sebring. This place is Florida's quiet middle child. Not flashy like Miami, not touristy like Orlando, but weirdly confident about it. It's the kind of place where people still wave at you from the port. The town curls around Lake Jackson, a postcard-worthy spot that somehow hasn't been overrun with jet skis and real estate developers yet. Median home price? About $240,000. Rent for a two-bedroom? Roughly $1,400. The cost of living runs nearly 10% below the national average, and crime is 16% lower, which basically means your greatest local danger is tripping over a fishing pole or running out of sunscreen. Healthcare's covered too. Plenty of clinics, a few hospitals, and bigger systems a short drive away when you need them. Sebring is what happens when someone pressed pause on life and forgot to unpause it. You fish before breakfast, nap before lunch, and somehow still make bingo by 5. No stress, no rush, just water, quiet, and lemon bars from the neighbor who swears it's her new recipe for the 11th time. Number 14. Mount Dora. It looks like it was built by someone who thought, what if we gave Florida a personality? They call it the New England of the South, but instead of chowder and snow boots, you get sunshine, palm trees, and the occasional alligator cameo. There's a lighthouse, cobblestone streets, and a farmer's market that could easily double as an Instagram backdrop. Antique shops, art walks, and lakeside cafes keep retirees so busy they forget what retirement means. Median home price? Around $370,000. A two-bedroom rental averages $1,750. The crime rate sits about 22% lower than the national average, and the cost of living? A few points below, which is nice because you will be spending extra at the bakery. The population hovers near 17,000, small enough for everyone to know your dog's name, but not so small that you'll see the same person at the post office 3 times a day. The only real complaint? Parking? There are 12 spots downtown, half taken by golf carts driven by people grinning like they just won the lottery. But that's Mount Dora's magic. Every corner feels alive. You'll stop by just one book club, end up joining 3, sign up for wine walks, for the socializing, and tell everyone that the line dancing class was just for fun, even though you now own boots. Mount Dora doesn't make you feel retired. It makes you feel like you finally have time to live. Number 13. Punta Gorda. This is Florida's polished secret, the coastal cousin that figured out how to age gracefully without getting boring. Perched on Charlotte Harbor, it's all marinas, pastel sunsets, and cafes, where happy hour starts early because, honestly, why wait? Think Naples without the attitude. Fewer designer dogs, more neighbors who actually smile when you say good morning. Homes average around $430,000, but you're paying for views, not parking lots. Rent sits close to $2,000. The cost of living is barely above national, and crime? About 38% lower, meaning your biggest local emergency is realizing you forgot your sun hat halfway through a boat ride. Healthcare is solid, with local hospitals and easy access to bigger networks in nearby cities, so you can relax without sacrificing peace of mind. Life here is one long exhale. Locals are perpetually tan, the air smells faintly of salt and sunscreen, and decisions are limited to kayak, cruiser bike, or convertible. There's only one town rule: everyone drives slow, like comically slow. You'll roll your eyes the first week, accept it the second, and by week 3, you'll be that person. Linen shirt, golf cart, and a complete lack of urgency. Punta Gorda runs on sunsets, seafood, and the occasional jazz night by the harbor. Number 12. D-Land. And yes, that's really its name. Feels like the universe decided to bring together a storybook town with a college campus. The result? Murals of flying alligators, indie coffee shops that double as art galleries, and people who wave like they've known you for years. Because by next week, they probably will. Median home price? About $350,000. Rent for a 2-bedroom runs near $1,700. The cost of living hangs just under the national average, crime is about average, and healthcare is never far. A few solid hospitals and clinics nearby keep things practical. Population sits around 39,000, enough to give you options without chaos. DeLand's rhythm is slower than a city, but faster than you'd expect from a retirement town. The college, Stetson University, keeps the energy young, with jazz nights, film festivals, and art fairs. Retirees bring wisdom, patience, and excellent porch chairs. Together, they make a community that feels both lively and grounded. It's weird, warm, and completely wonderful. Beaches are just an hour away, and downtown keeps your pantry stocked with fresh bread and good gossip. DeLand doesn't try to impress you. It just wins you over. It's charming, a little odd, and impossible not to love. 11. Venice. This is where retirees ride beach cruisers to brunch in linen and call shark tooth hunting a fitness routine. The sand sparkles, the streets are clean enough to eat off, and everyone looks like they just stepped out of a sunscreen commercial. This is coastal Florida with manners, calm, scenic, and suspiciously well organized. They call it the shark tooth capital of the world for a reason. Locals casually unearth prehistoric souvenirs while sipping cold brew like it's no big deal. The median home price floats around $475,000, rent for a two-bedroom hits about $2,200, and the crime rate sits roughly 40% lower than the national average. Translation? You can actually walk your dog at sunset without checking over your shoulder, unless it's for an incoming pelican. No trains, no traffic. Just beach cruisers on the Venetian Waterway Trail at golden hour. Police wave, waves sparkle, and every local insists they're not racing for the best sunset spot, even though they absolutely are. The only real Florida-style chaos is parking near the beach, which feels like trying to win the state lottery. Possible, but mostly rumor. But once you get that spot, the breeze hits, the sky turns gold, and you realize Venice isn't trying to impress anyone. Number 10. Niceville. Yes, it's a real place. It's across the bay from Destin, where people bake cookies for new neighbors and actually mean it when they ask, "How are you?" Homes hover around $390,000, two-bed rentals around $1,750, and the cost of living is 4% below the national average, which means you can splurge on that second pie at the bake sale. The crime rate? Practically non-existent. It's about 48% lower than the national average, making this one of the safest spots in the state. Population? Roughly 15,000. The parks look like they've been pressure washed by angels. Sunsets melt into gold, and the town's biggest drama usually involves a raccoon getting too comfortable at Walmart. But don't mistake peaceful for dull. Niceville throws festivals, parades, and neighborhood barbecues like it's a civic duty. Healthcare's close, beaches are just over the bridge, and someone's golden retriever will 100% wander into your yard demanding affection. Number 9. Winter Garden. This place is what happens when someone finally figures out how to make Florida calm. It's 30 minutes from Orlando, but you'd never know it. The brick-paved streets look like they've been photoshopped. The farmer's market smells like every good Saturday morning you've ever had. And the West Orange Trail runs straight through town, full of retirees on bikes who still somehow pass you. Median home price, around $495,000. Rent for a two-bedroom, roughly $2,300. The cost of living is a bit higher, about 6% above national, but the crime rate sits 25% lower, which balances things out nicely. You pay a little extra for a place that's organized, walkable, and well-kept, where the loudest thing you'll hear is a live band at the market or someone comparing pickle vendors. Weekends here are predictable in the best way. Coffee, fresh bread, and the mild chaos of trying to park downtown while a guy on a unicycle cruises by for the third time. Hospitals, restaurants, and big city conveniences are close enough to borrow from Orlando, but you get to come home to quiet streets and tree cover instead of traffic. Number 8. Apalachicola, hard to spell, easy to love. Apalachicola sits on Florida's forgotten coast. No high-rises, no chaos, just porches, shrimp boats, and oysters that taste like the bay whispered them into existence. The population is a hair over 2,400. Median home prices hover near $345,000. Two-bedroom rent lands around $1,500. Cost of living is roughly 8% below national, and the crime rate sits about 35% lower than average. The biggest local crime is someone borrowing your kayak without asking and returning it with thanks and a dozen oysters. This is small-town coastal in the best way. Neighbors talk on porches, not group chats. Sunsets earn silence, and the water sets the day's schedule. Cell service can be mythical in spots, which turns out to be a gift because you end up knowing people's names, dogs, and favorite pie flavor the old-fashioned way by listening. Healthcare is practical if limited in town. Bigger hospitals are a drive, but reasonable for planned care. You come here for the hush, the history, and the seafood, and you stay because your blood pressure drops 10 points just walking the dock at dusk. Apalachicola is a quiet promise kept, tide after tide. Number 7, New Smyrna Beach. Locals just call it NSB because once you live by the ocean, syllables feel optional. This is the place where the pace slows down and flip-flops count as formal wear. You'll see surfboards leaning against art galleries, retirees sipping espresso in beach cafes, and pelicans that honestly look like they own the place. Median home prices sit in the low to mid $400,000 for 2025, with smaller condos dipping below that if you're quick. Rent for a 2-bedroom? Around the low $2,000. Sure, that's not dirt cheap, but you're paying for daily ocean therapy. The cost of living hovers just above national average, and the vibe is a perfect mix of old Florida charm and low-key art town. You'll spend mornings walking the boardwalk, afternoons at local galleries, and evenings debating whether tonight's dinner should be fish tacos or, well, fish tacos again. Locals say every hour is golden hour here, and they're not wrong. The rain comes hard and sideways, but 5 minutes later, the sky looks like it's been photoshopped. NSB is the kind of place where people don't retire to slow down. They retire to actually live. Number 6, Dunedin. Here's the thing about Dunedin. It's somehow managed to stay charming, cultural, and coastal without turning into a tourist circus. You can thank its Scottish roots, its love of art, and its rule that small-town friendliness is basically city law. The Pinellas Trail runs right through the middle, connecting cafes, markets, and parks without a single car honk in sight. In 2025, the median home price sits around the low $400,000, with plenty of condos in the $300,000 if you prefer walkable living. Rent averages in the mid $1,000, and the cost of living? Pretty reasonable for a Gulf Coast gem. Crime rates are far below Florida's average, and hospitals like Mies Dunedin keep healthcare close. What's life here like? Think morning coffee downtown, a quick bike ride to Honeymoon Island, and sunset bagpipes from the local pub drifting through palm trees. Sometimes there's traffic during festivals, but no one really minds. Everyone's too busy living the good kind of cliche, barefoot, sun-kissed, and just a little smug about their decision to move here. Number 5. Fernandina Beach, Amelia Island. This place looks like a postcard that forgot to retire. It's got Victorian architecture, brick-lined streets, shrimp boats rocking by the docks, and the kind of bakeries that make you consider a second breakfast. It sits on the northern tip of Amelia Island, where the pace is gentle and every street smells faintly of salt and espresso. Homes here average in the high $400,000, but there are cozy townhouses in the mid $300,000 if you don't mind less square footage and more charm. Rent for a 2-bedroom hovers in the mid $1,000, and while home insurance near the coast can get spicy, everything else, from groceries to gas, feels fair. Locals call it front porch and flip-flops culture. You'll see retirees fishing off the pier, artists sketching the lighthouse, and neighbors who actually talk to each other. Safety is solid, healthcare is nearby, and the only real danger is catching a case of permanent vacation face. Number 4. Brooksville. If you thought Central Florida was just endless flatland, Brooksville wants a word. This little gem has rolling hills, oak trees older than the internet, and streets that look like they were designed for rocking chairs, not traffic. You're close enough to Tampa for a city fix, but far enough away to actually hear yourself think. In 2025, home prices sit comfortably around $300,000. Rentals for a 2-bedroom range from $1,100 to $1,400, depending on how much porch space you want. The cost of living is refreshingly low, and the crime rate stays below state averages. It's peaceful without feeling empty. Your weekend might include antique browsing downtown, biking the Good Neighbor Trail, or waving at horses during your morning walk. People here measure time by sunsets and thunderstorms, not clocks. And while you might drive a bit for a Target run, you'll come back to the kind of stillness you didn't know you missed. Brooksville is proof that Florida doesn't need a beach to feel like paradise. Number 3. Inverness. This one's a sleeper hit, literally. Inverness is quiet, clean, and one of the most affordable lake towns still standing in Florida. It's where people move when they want serenity with a side of sanity. The 2025 median home price sits roughly around $250,000, which is basically a Florida unicorn. Rents hover between $1,000 and $1,300, and the cost of living stays right around the national average, sometimes even below. Crime's low, healthcare is nearby, and the air smells faintly of pine and peace. This place is built around the water. The Withlacoochee State Trail runs straight through town, offering miles of biking and walking paths lined with cypress trees. The downtown square is pure Americana. Farmers markets, live bands, and more small talk than you're probably used to. Inverness isn't trendy, but it's timeless. You don't come here to show off, you come here to breathe. Number 2. Sebastian. It's for people who want to be by the water, but not in a crowd. It sits quietly between Vero Beach and Melbourne, offering river sunsets, mangrove coves, and dolphins that seem way too photogenic to be real. The 2025 median home value sits around mid-300Ks, and rent averages about $1,400. That's almost 60% safer and 30% cheaper than many coastal alternatives. The crime rate is comfortably low, the cost of living stays manageable, and the vibe is Florida unplugged. You'll spend mornings fishing, afternoons kayaking, and evenings at riverfront bars where everyone knows the local musician by name. Hurricanes? Yeah, they happen, but Sebastian takes them in stride, board up, sip coffee, and carry on. It's not flashy or